Hi, in this video we're going to talk about how to extend the Centrify-enhanced Sudo validator to check for ServiceNow tickets. And the reason why we want to do this is because many of the security regulations require and stress more the need for documented approval for change control, and this may include privilege elevation activities, right? So there's different regulations, best practices, and standards that require that, right? So some of you might have seen we have a blog post that talks about the dzdo validator, which is a capability included with Centrify Direct Authorized for Unix Linux, can be implemented also on Windows, that allows you to provide a change control number when you are doing privilege elevation. So lately I've been exposed a little bit to ServiceNow, right? And some of the REST APIs allow you to query some of the requests, right? So in this particular lab setting, companion to the blog, I'm going to show you the building blocks for being able to either allow or not the execution of a privilege command on Unix using Centrify-enhanced Sudo based on the status of a ServiceNow ticket. So let's take a look at my setting here. First and foremost, I have a ServiceNow instance, right, and I have several requests that I can query through the API, right. So the components that make up the solution are first and foremost the Perl implementation of the ServiceNow API, right, and there's some sample scripts that have been included. This script right here allows me to basically use the ServiceNow API to query for requests. So one of the things that I've done is, because when you're querying ServiceNow you need credentials, is that I'm using Centrify Privilege Service to protect the password, the AAPM capability, and that way I don't have to put the password on clear text here. At the same time, I can actually use I can also use things like maybe an oath token as well, which is a good practice to have. Let's take a look at some requests. So the script that I actually created, I'm able to run it. For example, this is a request that exists here. So if I go and I query it here on ServiceNow, I'll be able to find it. And the request, for example, I think it's let's just pick any request here. For example, let's see, something that is approved. Let's take a look. Right, so this request right here seems to be approved, this request, right? So I can actually go out and query that request using this program right here. So let's take a look. So this is going to connect, right? And it's going to return what comes back from that request, right? So there's different types of requests that may or may not exist there. I have some that I've been testing with, so hopefully I can get a result with that one. Otherwise, I have several of those that I can pick. So notice this one didn't give me anything, right? We'll use it later. Let's take a look at some of the ones that I've been testing with. And I think I have this one. And let's take a look at this one right now. And this one, I think it's not approved. It's just requested, right? I have another one that is approved. Let's take a look. Here it is. And let's go ahead and take a look at this other one. So basically what we want is, A, if the request doesn't exist, and I actually test it with one that doesn't exist, or is that the command is not allowed. If the request is not approved, that the command is not allowed. And if the request is approved, the user is allowed to do that, right? So I actually created my modified version of the dzdo validator using this API. I already have it set up and ready to go. For this, I can just modify the Centrify DC configuration file. And all I need to do is enable the dzdo validator. In my particular case, I modified the sample one, and I called the copy dzcheck.snow, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save that, right? What's going to happen now is that for me to be able to run any command, let's just say, for example, if I wanted to run, for example, AD flush, right? Many of you that are familiar with Centrify know that this can only be run by root, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to try to do an dzdo AD flush and see what happens. So notice that it's asking me for the change control ticket number. A good important thing that I should do is probably subscribe here so you can see what's happening in the log at the same time. So I'm going to try and use the request that I wasn't able to get first. And what you'll see here, if you focus on the right side of the screen, notice that the user is not allowed to run it, right? Because we couldn't find it, right? So notice reason not found right here. Let's do it with one that is not approved. And we know that this one right here is requested. So notice that it's not allowing me to do that. At the same time, notice that it's saying, hey, in this case, it's not approved, right? So finally, let's use one that is approved. And what you'll see right here is that in this case, because it's going out and it's retrieving something that is, you know, it's real, it's approved, the user will be able to execute the command. So this is pretty clever, and it provides additional benefits, right? Some of the additional benefits are the following. So let's just minimize everything here. And first, if you have direct audit, anything that I did, I have several options here. So I can open Audit Analyzer. And what you see is that if I look at the audited events from today, all the activities that are done with the different trouble tickets are actually documented. And I can do a search, and any session that is related to, for example, let's just say I want to do a quick query here on anything that has this change control number, right? I'm going to have all the sessions, right, that had anything to do with this change control number, right? Another benefit is if I have the Splunk app for Centrify, so let's go ahead and take this out of full view and or open another Firefox. Right, if I go to Splunk and I look at the Centrify data, right? So some of you may or may not be familiar with this app, but basically allows you to get information from syslog, and it's going to give you a lot of interesting information about what's been going on. One of the areas is reporting, right? So I can take a look at privilege activity reporting, and you know, when the report is generated, notice that you'll be able to see if the validator failed. This means that you can generate also alerts, right? So a lot of cool capabilities, right, related to this. Depending on how strict you're being on the need for documented approval, especially on privilege elevation, this could be a great tool for you. And I'm hoping that the blog post and the video have been illustrative.